Hi, everyone. Welcome to the UCSC Silicon Valley Extension Career Services Workshop. UCSC Silicon Valley Extension is your UC in Silicon Valley. We offer professional development courses and certificate programs and specializations for you to update your skills for today's job market. My name is Nisa, and I am the Student Success and Affairs Manager here. And today's topic is all about preparing for the Silicon Valley Tech interview. I'm happy to announce our wonderful presenters today, Bineet Sharma and Sebastian Gutierrez-Nolasco. Bineet is a Java and C programming instructor with more than 30 years of experience in tech architecture, upper level management, professional teaching, and entrepreneurship. He also serves as the chair of the Computer Programming Certificate and the new Java Development Specialization. And Sebastian has been a computer scientist and principal software engineer at NASA Ames Research Center for the last 14 years and is also a professional teacher. Together, they will share what companies are looking for and how to prepare and ace the tech interview in Silicon Valley. And before I hand it over to Bineet to begin, we just ask that any questions that you have during the presentation to submit to the chat at the bottom of the screen, and then we'll go over as many as we can after. And if we do not get to your question, don't worry, we can follow up with you after the webinar. And if there are any questions that you think of after it's all completed, please feel free to email us at extension@ucsc.edu, and we can forward your questions over. So thank you so much, and Bineet, take it away.
Thank you, Nisa. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to this Silicon Valley Tech Interviews seminar or webinar, whatever you call it. How do you prepare it? So before I start, I just want to let you know that why you want to join this. Most of the time it is you're looking for a big job, right? That's what you're doing. But guess what? It is a big job to find a job. So really you have to treat that way. There is so much involved to find a job. So you have to make sure you prepare properly. So today in this webinar, what we are trying to do it is make at least that part of the tech interviews part of it a little bit easier for you to see how to prepare it. Yes, you can, there's a lot of, resources available, but you can listen to us, then you will be able to ask questions to us, also interactive. We'll try to have our presentation, kind of less than 30 minutes, 20. Nisa, we have 1 hour, right? Full 1 hour?
Yep, 1 full hour.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll try to limit our presentation to around 30 minutes, and mostly we'll try to devote interactive and then let you ask questions also to us. So what we are going to cover here is we'll first introduce ourselves and then go through the interview process. What are the things interviewers are looking for with you, and go through the hard skill, soft skill, and then most important is the whiteboarding process. And then also give you some resource and planning to get ready and prepare for that. And then ask, have a question and answer session. So Nisa already talked about my introduction. I'm also a director of Computer Science Department and Associate Professor at University of Silicon Valley. It's a 4-year degree college where there is a Computer Science Department. And my colleague Sebastian teaches there, and he is in NASA also. Hey, Sebastian, do you want to say hello or anything add in here about yourself?
No, you're doing a great job in it.
Okay, thank you very much. Sebastian will also share with you very tech interview, niche, way of how to handle tech interviews very soon. So let me go through this first round of interview cycle, and then I'll hand over to Sebastian to take over. So what is, interview life cycle? All of you know, but make sure also, Silicon Valley is kind of a unique place. So some of you might be coming from other part of the country, of the world, in a different place. It will be done differently. But in here in Silicon Valley, it's like calling you for 5 or 6 times for one job is very usual. It's very rigorous. So get ready. Don't get frustrated. Because if you get frustrated with one company asking you to come 5, 6 times, it will be really a big chore for you to think and navigate through for 5, 6, 10 companies, right? So, be prepared for that. Know that they are going to call you for, have you talk to them for 5, 6 times to get ready. So Silicon Valley is very notorious of that. So let's go through the process. Of course, you got to find the job. You can get through referral or LinkedIn page or what have you. Submit your, resumes. And hopefully the recruiter will find you, your resume, will have a conversation with you, and then the rest of the interview process will follow. Once it is all done, you'll get a feedback or no feedback. Maybe some of the companies don't even give you feedback. And they may tell you, okay, you are hired, and then the hiring onboarding process starts. But most likely, you will get a no from them, if they at all tell you no. But make sure that you are ready to accept a no. And this is very, very important to think no as a next opportunity. Maybe that place was not good for you. Maybe there is another good place is waiting for you. So that's how you have to think, and think that whole process of going through the interview itself is a learning process. So that's how you have to build on your next interview. Okay, and then you just start over the cycle. That's how you have to keep moving. Another thing you have to think of, okay, when I go to the interview, what are the questions they are going to have? There will be tons of questions, tons of different areas. So get ready. So there will be a behavioral type of question, there will be situational type of question, there will be educational question, and definitely technical question. So let me very quickly describe what are these. When you say behavioral question, they will ask you, they will try to gauge you, just yes and no, not that yes and no answer. They will try to see your storytelling capacity. They will say, how do you, they'll find a way to ask you, how do you handle challenges? The jobs always require a lot of challenges. They will want to know if there is a lot of pressure, and all of us has pressure in the workplace. So how effective you are, how do you manage your pressure? How do you recover from the mistakes? A mistake will happen. If you say, I don't do any mistakes in my work, then they know that you are not telling the truth. Everybody will do the mistakes. So, and will happen sometime. So how do you recover? What is your way of handling some mistakes happening? Your mistakes or your team workers' mistakes, your colleagues' mistakes, or what have you, right? And then they may ask you a situational question. They will ask you, while in work, they'll give you some scenarios. A deadline is looming and you have something to take care of at home. How do you handle it? Your co-workers is like a slacker, does not do the work. And you are the one always picking up the slack. How do you handle that? And you have multiple projects simultaneously going on. How do you juggle with these kind of things? Those kind of questions might come along also. And they may ask you the educational question to see how trainable you are. Are you always learning? You want to learn. You have that aptitude. What kind of classes you liked in your college or school or vocational school or what have you. Then comes the technical side. Have you mastered the technical ability you need, right? So these are the questions you should expect. But we are focusing here in tech interview, right? So what is really a tech interview? What is the difference between tech interview and other interviews? So in tech interview, what is expected is like, don't tell me, like, in our, resume, what we write. I have masters, I have mastered C language, Python, algorithm, this, that. Okay, don't tell me master, show me that you have really mastered algorithm. So they will ask you a question, you should be able to show that with your answer that yes, you have mastered algorithm. So they want to see in practical with some problem solving and all those kind of things. So what you need to treat tech interview is like an exam. That's what it is, not a question and answer kind of thing, right? So in tech interviews, you should prepare one way or other. There is some flavor of this, not exactly same, but some flavor of these 3 stages will come. A phone is screening first. where it could be HR calling you, or a technical manager herself or himself will call you to ask some questions and all that. It depends on company to company. Then there will be remote coding interview and assignment. They will not call you to their company most of the time. They will give you some way of taking your technical interview, okay? Meaning technical assignment. They'll ask you solve some problem. In some cases, they will have a Zoom session. They will proctor it that while you are doing it, they will review it also. In some case, they will say, okay, finish in 48 hours and then submit it. That's your assignment. So I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And usually they are 1 hour session, sorry, the remote coding is not, depends on whatever. Then comes on-site, meaning calling you on site and interview. And then with the whiteboarding, we'll talk about the whiteboarding a little bit later. So this could be anything. It could be 1 hour session, or it could be, a whole day session. It depends on company to company how they do it. They may break it down to 3 or 4. Some of the companies have half a day. Some of the companies has a full day. It depends again, company to company, how big it is. More bigger company has very structured way of doing it. Their process is very granularized. But very startup company and all that may not do that way. A little bit easier on those. And then of course you wrap up. They say that we'll call you and all that. It's not a bad idea to follow up first with a thank you note in first 24 hours. And then you should follow up with the 7 days if they didn't reach out to you either way, okay? Again, remember it differs from the company to company and size and the geographic location also. So very quickly, what kind of phone interview you can expect? Some company will do very fast, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. Some might go 60 minutes. Again, it's not hard and fast that it will be 60 minutes. It depends. And when they call, what they are looking for, again, depending upon if it's HR call, recruiter call, or a technical manager call, or technical person call, the question could be different, okay? So what they want to see it is when you are talking, it could be video screening also. Nowadays, everything is Teams or Zoom or something like that. So in this, the first one, when they're doing it, they will try to see are you really passionate about coding? Do you like coding? Are you enthusiastic about it? Do you communicate properly? Do you think out loud? And are you a culture fit? Do you that kind of person who would be a good fit for us? And do you align with the missions and values? And how do you do that? How do they will try to evaluate you? Well, it depends on your preparation, how you do it and all that. If you want to stand out and make sure that you show the enough enthusiasm just not like that you are laughing and you are very happy and all those. Enthusiasm comes in many ways and in a concrete way that you should do your homework. You should be able to go deep down, go to their website, try to go to the LinkedIn, try to see what kind of people are there, who's working there. You can go to the Glassdoor, and Glassdoor has got a lot of information about each one of the company. And then when you are articulating your answer should relate your experience, your learning, your teaching, and connect with that company's product and their services. If you kind of anecdotally be able to connect those, they will say, you are a person who's very interested. Maybe you are preparing the question and answer for all of the companies, but for this interview, you should focus on that company and make sure you kind of relate that. That's how they'll judge your passion about that, okay? And then you will get first of all, congratulate yourself if you get a remote coding challenge second interview. That means they liked you in a phone interview. Now they are ready to go to the next level. So in this time, they will have some problem given to you, some ways. It could be real-time monitored, or asynchronous question means the question is given, you can take your own sweet time, and complete it and submit it. What they're looking for, they're looking for your, how good your code, how, is it very nicely written code, meaning simple code, efficient code, and you have tested it. You have shown that you are a problem solver. You're using creativity and things like that. So to stand out, because a lot of people will solve like you have to always think everybody will solve like you. So how can you be better? To be better, make sure that you are checking the corner cases, meaning, does it work for 1? Does it fail when it is a 0? Those kind of scenarios. So if it is a negative value, does it fail? Things like that. Make sure you go above and beyond when checking corner cases. And many times they will throw in a bonus question, or, so make sure that you really attempt those bonus questions and do it well. So that way they will know that, oh, you are the one who is a go-getter kind of personality, okay? One thing I do want to warn everybody is make sure that what you do is your own work. It is not somebody else's work. Do it yourself, and then you'll feel proud of yourself, right, by doing yourself. The reason is, suppose you use some data structure, some algorithm there, and you did not know somebody help you because it is remote, nobody's going to check for you. What happens if you go to the next level and go on site? And what happens, they will ask you a simple question about, hey, tell me about why you did that, use that algorithm, how you're going to answer it. It's not that you chose it. You don't even have a clue why you chose it, right? So you will be caught red-handed, and think about it, what will happen after that. All this, your hard work will be in vain. So don't do that. Do it yourself, no matter what. You will feel proud of yourself. And then if they call it an on-site and whiteboard interview, that is even better for you, right? You got to think, okay, I'm already done with everything. Now this is the last one. And whiteboarding, many people are very skeptical. And what happens is it makes people nervous because it is impromptu, it is right in their face. Sometimes there will be 5, 6, 10 people even, in some cases, watching one together. In some cases, most of the cases are 2, 3 people, or 2 people, or one person will be there. But sometimes there will be many, and that throws people off. But I'll say that you go to practice. We'll come to that one a little bit later. But make sure that you are prepared to face those challenges. Don't get intimidated. Be yourself, and come to the site. And then on site, there will be multiple interviews. There will be multiple people talking to you. Maybe first 1 hour, half an hour will be with your HR person, and then with your manager. Not that much of technical interview in that case. Then some CTO will take on and ask, technical interview and all those kind of things. But it will be followed by the whiteboarding, okay? And then in the whiteboarding, you will be judged by asking you to solve a problem in the whiteboard, and you are going to write it. Most of the time, it is like a pseudocode or something. You are going to write it and provide the solution. So what are the approaches you should be taking? Whenever a problem is given and it's impromptu right there when live, you got to make sure that you really understand the question. You got to ask clarifying question. That's not considered bad that you asked a question. Did I understand correctly? Meaning, it was that question really. And then also you should have some assumption and all that. You say, okay, I'm going to assume this. Make sure when you write it, you got to talk. What you are thinking, the interviewer is not listening, right? But if you talk out loud, they will be listening. So it becomes interactive. And you can also, see a little bit of sign from the interviewer, and they may give you a lot of hints. And a lot of people, one important thing you have to understand and internalize is people are not looking for a gotcha moment to kind of trap you. Interviewer and good companies are not trying to trap you with the question answer like that. What they're trying to see is your approach, your process, So, most likely they will also with their, when you are asking for more, clarification, they will even give you some kind of hint, okay? And they would like you to be successful as well. So with that mind, if you go, then you'll be much more, how do I say, with yourself, and you will not get that nervous. So, when you're talking about your code and all that, don't say that, oh, this will have this result or something. Use, when you're writing the code, use the variable name, or use a return value, those kind of things. Verbalize it correctly, exactly like the code is saying, rather than be a generic one, okay? You may get stuck, you may get nervous, right? But don't, try to speak out loud. That will work fine. Yes, and then you got to know algorithms. We'll talk about that a little more later on. So concentrate on algorithms you are going to use. You got to find the right data structures, and you can verbalize it, why you are using that data structure particularly. Then you got to know about what is good about this data structure versus that data structure. You can use libraries. You can ask that probing question. Some interviewer may not like you to use a library, but you can ask, can I use a library? Like that. And then make sure you assume a valid inputs, and you can tell that I'm using valid inputs, or I'm going to error check, whatever is the situation. And again, I think last time I said also, identify the corner cases and check for errors. Okay, but after you are done and all that, make sure you walk through again. That way, when they notice that you are not only trying to finish it, did an efficient code, but you are thorough in checking your own work. Go back and solve it. And during this time, whiteboarding and on-campus interview and all that, what they're looking for your technical knowledge, how good you are in problem solving, creativity and all that. Are you using right data structures? Do you have a knowledge of those? And algorithm, of course. And remember, domain expertise is, different kinds of domain, not only the technological domain, but maybe the domain about the industry as well. They may want to see that. System design, object-oriented programming concept, polymorphism and all that, okay? And do you know how to use those, some of the tools industry uses? And then they will also check you on programming language competencies, best practices on different languages. Do you know how to think a structured way of solving a problem? Do you know how to use the libraries? Also, one more thing, when they will give you the code to solve, you may not come to a conclusion of the right answer. Your code may not have the right answer, but you may pass. You may get through this if your process is right. So if you're taking right approach to go to, so most of the good companies will emphasize on process. So like think out loud is exactly like when you were in elementary school or high school, they say, show your work in math. It's like that. That's how you have to think, show my work. So in your code, think out loud, and talking about how you're approaching it is writing your, maths, show your code kind of thing, show your work. And they also want to see cultural understanding. Do you take ownership of what you write? Okay, do you feel proud of yourself? Do you know how to deploy, how to maintain your code? And remember, nowadays, everything is so fast-paced. In Silicon Valley, anything 3 months old is already old, right? Can you adapt fast? Are you always very interested to learn new technologies and all that? And you are not afraid of taking those risks, calculated risk, okay? So being curious all the time. And another thing, they will see how do you take the feedback. It's very important to be very positive about getting a feedback. How do you articulate that, okay? That also you have to say it. And then of course you know the big picture or not. So, I'm just about to be done preparing for the technical interviews. Be a storyteller. You got to be a very big storyteller in the sense that you will not get a storytelling unless you analyze your own way, find the difficult problem you solved, some leadership work you did, or whatever passion you have, and then example of mistakes you should come up with, and then say, how did you solve those kind of things? So think about your accomplishment, and then make some kind of introductory way of describing 30 seconds to 60 seconds, introduction of yourself. Think about that. And overall, be a big storyteller, okay? And of course, you have to clear up all CS fundamentals, data structures, algorithms, and software systems and design. And about the language, just pick one language. Many times when you are in, students are preparing for the languages, they try to learn all languages. Not a good idea. Just pick one language and very good at it. So most of the good company who are trying to look for a good person, they will ask, what is your favorite language? Go ahead and use that one. So just pick one language and stay with it, okay? And yeah, you can, I can just go very quickly what I wrote it in here. Do a lot of coding challenges available in the, the web. Pick some project which you can during your whatever project, even student project or any project which you are proud of. So talk about that project, and okay, do mock interviews with your friend, get somebody, getting friend to work with you is the best way to ace the interview time, okay? And again, time management, there's so many things to go over, so you got to do the time management. You can ask questions also with the interview, after everything is done and all that, you can always ask them, try to find out what they like about the company, what are the tools they're using, what is the development process, test process, and all those kind of things. Any challenging problem, they still have it. And what is they're expecting from the candidate or for a successful employee in that position. These are the good questions to ask. Don't ask their age, or don't ask their, don't ask their, how much they earn in that company and all those kind of things. That's not what you need to do. So main thing is practice, practice, practice. The common mistake is going to the interview without any practice. That will be the bad thing, okay? And when they give you a coding problem, don't jump into the coding without completely understanding the full picture and asking probing questions, designing it, then writing the code. And don't be too arrogant, be humble, so that you got to be in the, that state of listening, so that you can be very creative, okay? Don't argue with the interviewer. Try to make it as a conversation and try to understand what they are imparting, okay? So I will ask you guys question and answer later on, but for now, I will hand over to my colleague, Sebastian. Take it away, okay?
Thank you, Bineet. I can emphasize much. So what Bineet said is right. So make it a conversation. As an interviewer, what we're looking forward is to get to know you. We want to know your thought process. We want to know how you react to certain problems, how you try to solve them. For us, everything is about problem solving and the process of doing so. And so the basic idea is that make it a conversation. It is totally okay, and that's what we expect. There is really no one answer to the problem. In fact, it would be wrong to do that. So what we try to do is provide you with a CAM problem that could be solved by 2 or 3 different ways. And we just want to see how you approach it. Okay, so my takeaway from that is always ask questions. Make sure that you understand the problem. Give a concrete example of the problem or create it on your mind. And based on that, you can create a plan of how can I solve this problem. And you can have many choices. The easiest way to do it is try a brute force approach. It always works. It may not be nice. It may take a long time, but it will carry you through most of the time. Now that you make it work, okay, so can I improve it in that sense? What is the best that I can do? And obviously, it's always good to identify and test for corner cases. But most important is be open to the feedback that some interviewers will give you. They will see that you are struggling a little bit. They will throw a hint at you. So be receptive to that. If your solution is too complicated, you may be going on the wrong direction. And so the idea of the entire on-site process is to understand how you solve a problem, so it shouldn't be too complicated. And so it's always good to know your fundamentals so you can actually avoid going into complex situations. Next slide, please. Right, so let's take a very simple example. This is just a Sudoku example. Okay, so you can give this Sudoku to a 12, 13-year-old kid and it will solve your problem in like around 30, 40 minutes. So, but well, this is a problem. We want to see how can we actually create a program that solves Sudoku. So we give you basically an understanding of the problem. It's a 9 times 9 grid, right? Basically formed by 3 by 3 grids. So you have restrictions in terms of that each row and column should not share a number, and there should be a number between 1 and 9. And if the initial numbers are chosen appropriately, like the example, there is usually a unique solution for this particular problem. So the easiest way to do it is, well, I can try to do a brute force approach to solve this problem. It does work, but then that will require that I would have to try every value on every empty cell. Right? That search space would be like around 9 to the 53, which is huge. So it's going to take a long time to solve it. Okay, so maybe brute force approach is not the right solution, but we can start looking at how can I approach to solve it. Well, maybe we can think, suppose that there is a way to find a solution that is made up of a series of choices. And so every choice that I make will carry me through and will bring me closer to the global solution. Next slide, please. All right, so, okay, so there are 3 basic algorithm types that you can try with this idea of I'm gonna take partial choices and eventually I will arrive to the optimal solution. It could be divide and conquer, it could be dynamic programming, or it could be greedy algorithms. So the first thing that we need to understand is, well, if I have these individual choices that will hopefully bring me closer to the solution, these individual choices would be subproblems. Are these subproblems independent or are they overlapping? Okay, so in divide and conquer, they need to be independent. Otherwise, that approach does not work. Since we need to make sure that the number is basically cannot be repeated on a row, on a column, that means that the constraints are not independent. So we cannot use that divide and conquer. Just the fact that you're stating, oh, well, using divide and conquer doesn't work in this problem because ABC, you have a great loss right there, check box on. Now, maybe the other question is, well, maybe I can use a greedy solution, right? So greedy works. Greedy is something that we are always try to do because it makes our life easier. Well, can I get the next slide? We can try greedy approaches, right? Just finding numbers and adding them up. And you soon will realize that basically it's not possible to solve Sudoku using a greedy approach, right? Or at least there is no known algorithm that can solve Sudoku using a greedy approach, right? So we need something else. So if it cannot be done by divide and conquer, it cannot be done by greedy algorithm. Maybe we can try about dynamic programming. Next slide, please. Right, so maybe in dynamic programming, I can do that. But what is dynamic programming? So dynamic programming is just a very nice way of doing intelligent recursion. Okay, so I'm gonna try lots of possibilities, but I'm gonna be smart enough to stop searching at some point and say, okay, that is not gonna give me the solution, so I'm just not gonna even go there. I'm just gonna look for another path. Okay, so that is important of dynamic programming. So if we have this idea that solutions can be constructed as a series of choices, maybe I can represent that either as a tree or as a dynamic directed acyclic graph. Okay, it doesn't really matter which one you choose, or the fact that you are explaining how you want to approach the problem using this or that. That's also another checkbox that you have there, right? Now, assume that we are going to use a tree, right? So the tree is going to be huge, like around 2 to the 53 or something like that. So I need to know when to stop searching on one branch of the tree and go to another branch. And in order to do that, there is a technique, there's a well-known technique called backtracking, in which once I find that basically this is the wrong path to follow, I'm just gonna turn around, go back to my previous choice point and find another one. And so that's basically what backtracking means. So that can be easily solved, right? So we need to specify, okay, now I want to solve it using backtracking or dynamic programming, which is basically the same. We're gonna identify what do I need to solve this problem. Right? Can I have the next slide, please? Right, so if I model it as a series of trees, right? Every number that I possibly add in one specific cell, I need to figure out, well, which cell do I need to put a number in and what number should I put there? Okay, and then I need to evaluate if it's a correct or if it's a valid input on that specific cell. So basically it boils down to three specific functions that I need to specify. Right? The next location, you need the cell where I'm gonna put my little number. I need to create a function is valid that will tell me, okay, so if I put a value there, would it be okay, or I'm violating the constraints of the Sudoku? And then the next step is, well, now if nothing works, then how do I backtrack? So I need to write a backtracking function. Okay, so with that, can I get to the next slide? I can identify basically the points where I just need to stop and go up the tree. And that is gonna be my backup, my backtracking function. For the next location, something as simple as using embedded force works. You probably need 3, 4. So that's on the order of n to the 4th. For is valid, you basically need to check for is it violating the rows, the columns, or is that in another grid? So basically you can do it in n square. So that is totally doable. Can I get to the next slide, please? And so at the end, if I specify these 3 functions, right, I write a pseudocode in terms of, well, I need to check here that the value already appears in a row and a column. I need to check if the value appears already in a 3 by 3 square. Which value should I put in? Basically, I can find the solution to that particular Sudoku problem, right? And instead of 9 to the 53, 54 times or permutations, I basically just need to check like around 8,000 times, right? So with those 8,000 times, I will need to do a backtracking. Backtracking probably will take like around 800 or so. But at the end, I will have my solution with Sudoku, which is a perfectly well described solution using backtracking and dynamic algorithms. But if you give this Sudoku to a child, a 12, 13-year-old kid, he would probably not use the solution that we just elaborate. And so the way that the kids will do it is they will try to find, okay, in my mind, or I'm gonna try to find which number should I put here, given that I need to restrict with rows and columns, and it will play, right? Kids will play in a very smart way and will eliminate possibilities. That concept of eliminating possibilities as a bulk not as backtracking, is what is called constraint satisfaction, right? So that is how we humans actually solve problems, by constraint satisfaction, which is a different topic also, as a different type of algorithm that is also good to know. Doing it here, you are doing great. But if you in advance said, well, there is this concept of constraint satisfaction, then you have a big bonus plan. Because then we're talking about something that you really need to get into because you are interested on. Something like AI or something that is declarative language, something that usually is not taught in normal classes. So that means that you went way above your classes of reading about algorithms, and you decide to spend time working on what else is there that it would help me to solve a problem, right? And this is basically what we want to see, right? Are you interested on? When Bineet said that you need to show that you care and that you are enthusiastic in whatever you do, this is how we see it from the outside. We do not see the amount of time that you put on your work. We don't see you working on the little problems or trying to figure out how to solve it. It requires a lot of work, yes, right? So it's totally correct, but we as an outsiders, we don't see it. So, but we want to measure it. And the only way to measure it is basically to have these little puzzles, right? That will give us an idea of how much effort have you put in your studies that could keep you beyond what everyone else have done there. Okay, Bineet? I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you for that great example. So what Sebastian just walked you through is the process of trying to solve one problem, right? And then what you saw was he tried multiple different ways and verbalized it in saying that why one or another one would not work and why one last one would work, what you picked. So think about that way. What happens is the interviewer is going to judge you to say, hey, you try to look for all the possibilities and pick the right one and approach it that way. So what happens is, when you get in problem and all that, sometimes you may know the solution already. Suppose Sudoku is given there. You may not be even trying these other two items, but say, I know that that's not working, I'm going to use this. But then that does not give, you may come up with a solution, but it will not give the interviewer enough knowledge about yourself that you follow the process. You are more interested in the outcome. That will not give you a good impression of you. So what you need to do it is, even though you already know the answer, you need to pause, you need to think, you need to verbalize that what are the other possibilities there could be. And then I'm going to apply that and verbalize to tell them. So in action, so your work kind of thing is, I have applied and I have thought about it, about other solutions that does not work. That's why I'm using this. And one last thing I do want to emphasize about data structures and algorithm is this. If you did not get any takeaway from this interview, one thing you must is 70% of the interview question for the developers comes from data structures and algorithm. That means you will get 70% of the point, you master this one particular item, data structures and algorithm. So make sure you practice data structure and algorithm. Make sure you internalize it completely, how to do it. There is even, they may ask you about the efficiency. This one example we showed you. There are efficiency. They will show that, they may ask you once you write your pseudocode and all that, saying, hey, now analyze what is your algorithm is. Then you should be able to do that big O notations and all those kind of things, and then so that this is better algorithm than the other algorithm you considered, okay? with that, let me show you some of the things. Our lot of ideas we put it there is from this learned code with me. That was technical interview there. It's a really, really good read. Please go through that. And then again, practice, practice, practice. You can practice in a lot of different ways. Some of them are paid services. There are a lot of places where it will give you free also. But LeetCode and HackerRank and all that are really good. And then in fact, these, if you put any one of your code and all that in LeetCode, that becomes like a public. You make it, publicize it so your interviewer can also go and check it. So you should have your portfolio ready. Maybe you have your GitHub account and all that. You can give that to show some of your code from there. Or suppose you did some open source coding and all those kind of things. So with that, I think we want to pause in here and wait for you all to ask questions. And Nisa, you can, if you are around, please let us know if anybody has asked any questions in there so that we can answer it.
Just before we go there, Bineet, I just would like to emphasize one thing, and Bineet already said it, but I think that the approach of finding a job is very similar to having a date, okay? So you go and you have a date, and that doesn't mean that you're gonna get married. Right? Things may go great, but you are not thinking in marriage, okay? So finding a job and going to interviews is exactly the same thing. Take it as a date. Go, enjoy it, okay? If something great happens, they will call you, and then something even better will happen, right? But if they don't worry about it. Right? Just go and have fun and go on another date. And I think that that is the great approach, okay?
I love that. That's really good. just to keep adding on that one is also think about it. There is one good date what you needed, that's all. So there is one good company, that's all you needed. You don't have to have 100 different dates or, which will go good, or 100 different companies you are going to join, right? All you need is one. So that's what the approach you should have. All right, Nisa,
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't have any questions coming in yet, but if anyone wants to submit questions, please go ahead and submit them through chat and I can, say them out loud. Or if you would like to unmute yourself, just let me know and then I'll call on you, or you can raise your hand or something.
Yeah. Let me see if I see the name and the face. So
we have one. What is the job process different for applying for internships?
Let me take that one. So internship also, believe it or not, nowadays, depending upon where you are looking for internship, it is a big companies like FANG. If you're going for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, and Microsoft and all, if you are going there, then internship itself is rigorous, okay? Because they pay you a lot. Interns are paid very good. And most of the time, those internship gets translated to a job, right? So that is the reason why, those processes are also not that, as a real interview, but very rigorous, because if interns don't work out well, they can always let you go, okay? But yes, it is also, but many other internships to smaller companies and all that really does not take you that much, okay? So it is usually, they may ask you a few questions, they may look at your resume, and they may call you for, a smaller, on-site interview or phone interview, and they may have you. I hope I answered you guys.
Next question is, do you have any suggestions on websites to practice data structures and algorithms, or books to learn the fundamentals?
Yes.
I can take that one.
Sure, go ahead.
So the one that is Corman, Laserson, and Ribes, that's usually called the CLR book. That was written in 1992. That is the pre-internet era. That is a great reference book for basic data structures and a little bit of algorithm. Okay, so the issue is that it's a pre-internet book. So the internet changed our conception of life. At that time, graphs was something that it was esoteric. And nowadays, graph and graph theory is just part of the internet. For algorithms, there is a great book by Eva Tartos and Kleinberg. That is a great algorithm design book. Another excellent book for the data structure is Weiss. He actually wrote two, one only for data structures and one between data structures and algorithms. The reality is that there are a lot of great books of algorithms and data structures, but the most important part is for you to be able to recognize the differences between them, when to apply them and when not to. And that takes effort. And usually that will not be, it's hard to understand that just by reading a book. You have to practice, you have to solve problems. And that's basically why some of these sites that they are in their resources are there and they're paid services, right? So that is basically how they make the money. You don't have to pay for that. You can find other places in which they are free, but it is up to you to expend that time, right? So it's either money or time, but you need to spend something.
Sebastian, is it possible for you to write down those names in the chat, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Okay. While he's writing very quickly, I think Geek for Geeks also I like. Geek4Geeks.com is also one good place where you can test out some of the algorithms and programs. There are other websites where you can go. We already gave you that link. For data structures, there are multiple. One thing you do want to master for data structure is just saying data structure and algorithm is not enough, depending upon what area, which stack you are doing. For example, data structure in Java, data structure in C++, data structure in Python, because basic data structures and algorithm is one, but you can apply because same thing is done differently in Java versus C++ or from Python. Okay, so you can also take that that granular way of doing things. Okay.
And UCSC Extension has some courses on data structures and algorithms with Python and Java as well. So check those out too.
In fact, I have my class on data structures in Java coming up, I suppose. Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Nisa, for reminding me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Another question that came in was someone has 6 years of business analyst experience in international companies, but when they apply for junior software developer positions, they reject the application with no interview. So what kind of advice would you give for people that are changing their careers?
That's a very good question. What happens is nowadays the companies are, especially they rejected. I don't know, can I ask you follow-up question is, was it small companies or big company? Very quick question.
Cesar, do you want to unmute and you can answer? Oh, small and big.
Small and big companies. Okay. Yeah. So what happens is nowadays companies are very specific. Okay. I would say those kind of things get rejected very fast from small companies than the big companies. Why is small companies don't have a lot of team members who can fill you in. So they are looking for very, very specific, ability people have it. And if you don't have that coding, they're not going to have you because they're not looking for some business person. So the way to go about the career change, it's like we call it learn to learn, is try to find that shorter courses and all that. So that's why our extension type of places or like coding camp, boot camp, and all that are great way for those people to transition from one type of education to another type of education. Okay, so that is a great way to do it. You can take some certification, just decide which way you want to go, some programming, do it, whether you want to go QA or whether you want to do coding, just pick one and go for some certification, and then do a lot of, projects on your own, and then show that when you are articulating, when you are writing it, write that, enhance your resume, make that as an enhancement, and your business part of your resume, make it go lower from your certificate program or the courses you are taking in different places. So this is how you transition to a different profession. Okay.
Great.
By the way, just to let you know, I started my career as an architect, then I became mining engineer, then the computer science technologist. Now I'm a teacher. So this is the great thing America does, allows you to learn to learn. So learning never stops, and I keep learning all the time. Now I'm a data science person, and then my next big thing I'm learning is metaverse. That's a big thing. Okay, just to let you know. So it's a good thing. All you have to do it is have that growth mindset of learning new things. Okay, and as long as you have that, company will see that that's what you are, and you'll get one. Yeah, it's tough. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. You have to be able to do some kind of way of showing that you trained it yourself. Okay.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
The next person's asking for advice for data science interviews. They said the problem space is so massive, it seems brutal. Anything from data structures to Bayesian stats are all fair game. Where should they focus?
I can take that one.
Okay.
For the case of data science, it would be good to take something like data mining or machine learning class. You would definitely have to take a class on probability, brush your math specifically in linear algebra, because everything will boil down to math, probability and linear algebra, basically. With that will give you the foundation along with your software engineering or programming languages to basically tackle the scalability, data mining, high performance, and machine learning, and eventually artificial intelligence. But the math needs to be there, because in data science, everything is modeled. So we have models for everything. They're basically little magical boxes on which we have input, output, some parameters on top, like your amplifier, that you can change the signal to make it suitable to what you want. And you need to know what happened inside that magic box without actually opening it and figure out what's going on inside. And that's where math binds everything. So as long as you have a great math foundation, and I'm talking about you need to know specifically eigenvectors, eigendecomposition, right? SVD, singular value decomposition. Get your probability right, especially Bayes. Bayes was esoteric now. Nowadays, everything is Bayes, including statistics. That will carry you forward a long way. And on the other hand, you need to spend time learning one particular language, right? So in the case of data science now, Python is the language to learn. But it is the language to learn because Python has great bindings to libraries that have been designed for the last 30 or 40 years in C, C++, and Fortran. So Python doesn't do that. What Python does is provide you an environment on which you can leverage all these libraries that they are proven to be useful in such a way that it's easy for you to create these models. Then if you look for example, to Google and said, well, now they're talking about TensorFlow. TensorFlow is just something that is built on top of Python, right? So, but it's the underlying math that will carry you through.
So can you explain what are the drawbacks and the positives of working with a recruiter?
So that means the recruiter, oh, no. It's always advantage to work with a recruiter, of course. Instead of, the recruiter will pre-process you and also the recruiter, some of the recruiters are already screened by the company. So there's a chance that your resume will be on top of the list. Okay, so it's a good idea to work with a recruiter for sure. I've been placed by recruiter all the time. And if some recruiter finds you, that's really, really okay to work. And then you are not paying anything. Make sure, because recruiters are paid by the employees. And don't think that because the recruiters are paid, they're going to give you less money. No, that don't work. That they have different budget for that purposes. So you should not think of that part of it. You can absolutely use the recruiter. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your questions and attending today's workshop. Just to go over these resources at UCSC Silicon Valley Extension, we do have a career services page with resources, worksheets, and recordings of workshop. And as Bineet mentioned earlier in the presentation, interview skills are key and not just the technical part of them. So we do have a previous recording of going over the art of interviewing that includes great tips and tricks on how to word your answers to the situational and behavioral questions. And then we also have a recording of a LinkedIn workshop that highlights ways in which you can stand out in LinkedIn and really make the most of their algorithms and getting connected to recruiters and all of that. So check them out just to really be prepared for the job hunt. And lastly, the other resource we have is a Soft Skills for Success course, which is a free course. And if you complete it all, then you receive a digital badge that you can add to your LinkedIn page just to show that you took a course on soft skills. And these are really like the essential skills like time management, teamwork, things like that. Communication is a huge one as well. So that is also really helpful if you're looking to kind of to learn more about those. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Bineet and Sebastian for taking time out today to talk about, preparing for the Silicon Valley Tech interview. And thank you so much.
Nisa, can you give me a minute? I just saw one question and I wanted to answer somebody about talking about the OPT.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that 1 year OPT is a disadvantage when compared to 3 year OPT candidates? And is it early to apply for jobs since my EAD will be ready in July? No, it is never early. I think you should apply. You can, you should not think of advantage or disadvantage. Try to take advantage of that 1 year OPT by right away applying it. And it takes that long anyways with the interviews and all that. So by the time July comes, you'll be ready. And then again, if it don't work out, you get interview experience as well. So it is never, too early to apply. Okay. All right. Thank you, Nisa, and thank you, Sebastian. And thank you everybody for attending it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.